It's 6:30 in the morning. I'm up, just starting to get ready for what will be the final sail of the season, all being well. So we're underway. Sun's just come up out of the Void Channel. Got the engine off and sailing. It's windward, but we're doing okay. Hi all, I'm Tony. This is SV Tapatya, and we have been, as you may know, building a cruising sailboat. Spent some 2 months on sea trials, and this week's video is all about the very last leg of those sea trials. In the previous video I'd had some minor-ish issues with the diesel system on the engine, and the end result of that was that I'd done a bit of a sort of temporary lash up repair so that we could get back and do the final leg and get back to our winter mooring. So, as you've just seen, I set off solo sailing, motored out of the bay, out of the marina and the bay area, which had a very narrow buoyed channel to come out of, and very shallow either side of it. So motored out of there, and as soon as I was out of that area, could hoist the sails and start sailing. And the situation was that the first diesel filter had broken, and I was unable to get the parts to repair it, so I'd bypassed that. And the return line from the injectors that I had was earlier fed into that first filter. I'd put into a 5-gallon jerry can with the thinking that I would collect it in that jerry can, and every now and again just stop and empty the jerry can back into the diesel tank, and that should enable us to motor for a while. Yeah, so I've got the sails hoisted, I've got nearly all the fenders in. On your own, it's, you know, and the bloody tiller pilot doesn't work. It's just about useless, so I have actually already ordered a new one, and we'll show you that in due course. Yeah, hopefully a good one. We'll see. So on your own with no tiller pilot or no self-steering of any sort is yeah, difficult, frankly. You know, it's not impossible, clearly, because here I am, and I dare say I'm not the only one to do such a thing, but it's not easy. But yeah, we're underway. It's a lovely morning, and not quite as cold as I expected, which is good. Trying to show my throat haul parrel, the red one. It could possibly go to the second batten down, not the first. But other than that, it's working very well. The sail shape is far better. You compare it to the foresail, it's much more wrinkly. I'm still the same on the foresail. Much better on the main. A nice set of sail on there. Well, we're getting on. I've got Bob the autopilot on the job, but not switched on, so it's basically just tying the tiller off, and we're doing okay. Gives me a chance to have a cup of coffee at least, which is nice, and got the rest of the fenders in and got the boat a bit more organised, so that's a good thing. Well, the overflow from the return line hasn't been a great success. Have a look. That's the bilge with a load of diesel in it. And unfortunately, the nearest thing I've got to a pump is this tiny little syringe, so I'm syringing it up into that diesel can and trying to clean this out. So, pumped it out pretty much and got that 20-litre can up the back there. So I pumped out 5 litres of diesel, which means that in about 3/4 of an hour of motoring, it pumped through there 10 litres, because the 5-litre can was full, and then another 5 litres that overfilled. That's the flow rate on the return, which is more than I expected, I have to say. But there we go. We're doing okay. Got unintelligent Bob on the job. Just tied off the tiller basically with the tiller pilot that's not switched on. And we're doing okay. We're not fast, but we're making progress in the right direction, which is very good, and we're steering fairly well. I should try and get the last dregs of that diesel out, but I've got the vast majority out. It's very good. Whew. Right, that's gone well actually. I've got it all out. Clean bilge. Oh, with a bit of diesel residue, but in case anyone's wondering, I'm pumping that out into a diesel jerry jug, and because my motor bilge is so clean, which is the way I like it, I've just tipped that straight back into the tank, at least nearly all of it. The very, very bottom bit I haven't, but the first 5 litres went straight back in. Good, that's all good. Back to sailing. Well, the autopilot's sailing really well, really well. Well, the non-intelligent autopilot, so that's excellent. Well, hopefully we can sail in. Let's try it. Wow, I'm out here on the tiller. I love this little boat. She sails so well, you know. Oh, not fast. It's not kid herself. She's not a fast boat, but she sails. She feels really solid. We're going to windward, 3.5 knots in about 10 knots of wind. I'm completely happy. She's lovely, and yeah, not as cold as I expected, which is another lovely. It's really good. Wind's supposed to get a bit lighter and more on the nose from midday on, so we'll see how we get on. We'll do our best. Well, we'll manage. Certainly. The goal is to sail as far as possible, as close to the marina as possible. I've got that 20 litre jerry can in there now, so should be good to motor for. No, I'll have to check it after an hour, I'm sure, but should be good for longer than that really. But maybe I'll check it after an hour and empty it out, and you know, keep going, just empty it every hour. That'll work out, I'm sure. Meanwhile, enjoy the sailing. It's glorious. So, wind's bang on the nose, turned as forecast, exactly as forecast, except it's probably a little bit stronger than forecast. And we are beating homeward, and I'm not at all convinced that we'll get in before dark, but the marina, I know the marina is well lit, so it shouldn't be an issue. It's going to be a long day. Oh well, that's sailing for you, isn't it? Well, it's getting close to sunset. I'll just show you that. And as you may well hear, we're motoring. Wind's very light and bang on the nose. And what that means is that every now and again I stop. I've got the mainsail up. I stop or bear off, put the autopilot on, well, not on, but on the tiller holding, on a position that we can sort of sail slowly on. I stop the engine and I go down below and I empty the overflow tank into the main tank, which is just under my ear there, which is why I'm gesticulating madly like that. Yeah, so it's a silly carry on, but it's working. It's working. So I can do, well, I suppose I'll motor for half an hour. I can go a lot longer, in fact, because the tank is never full. This 20 litre one. In fact, half full is the most I've had it, which is good, so I don't want it to overflow. So that's working well. I say, bit of a palaver, but we're getting there and getting quite close to our destination now, which is very good. Well, we made it. Got in about 8:30 in the evening, so it's well after dark. Luckily there's leading lights coming into the marina and it's all well marked. So I got in, found the slip. It was, I'll just turn around. Dalbun, which somebody commented the other day that they're called dolphins in English, which is I think probably correct. Anyhow, so that was a bit of a shock. I was expecting a finger pier and come in, oh no, Darwin on my own, but actually it went really smoothly, and a couple of fellas come up and helped with the bow lines from the dock, and I got in, and yeah, I say all went really smoothly. I was quite impressed with myself. There we go. It's a lovely calm spot here because you have to sort of wend your way right into the marina, so I suspect it will always be calm here. It's very, very well protected. It's a great spot. And a beautiful sunny day today. Glorious. Let's come down below, and because this is the end of the sea trials. They're finished, I've done, and it's been great. 2 months, just over, 2 months and 1 week of sea trials, and we tested her in everything we could, given that it was Denmark. And it went really, really well. So as a liveaboard boat, she's great. I'm happy with just about everything in terms of liveaboard ability. Sailing, she sails beautifully, everything. She's not great beating to windward, let's be honest, you know, that's a fact, but all other points of sail she sails really well. And what I noticed was that when the wind gets up, if you get like 20 knots of wind, she's probably at her best, to be honest, from a beam or abaft, that sort of that bit around the aft end. She flies along with very little sail up, really, you know, 6 knots with just a tiny bit of sail. That's very effective. The motor needs to rev quite highly to push her at any respectable speed. At low revs in waves, it's slow, very, very slow. But if I rev her up to 2,600 revs, 2,800 revs, we're making okay speed in the sort of seas that the Baltic has to offer, which are short, choppy seas in the Baltic, but obviously fairly small. Can't be compared with ocean seas. So that's that respect. I've got 1 or 2 things I need to upgrade. Well, 1 or 2, I'll show you the list in a bit. The biggest bit of all is the tiller pilot that is essentially useless. So I've already ordered a new tiller pilot, and will of course finish the wind vane as well. So those 2, self-steering, that's the biggest thing. So when I say tiller pilot, what I mean is self-steering. It's essential. And sailing this boat on your own without self-steering is, you know, I've done it, it's possible, but it's bloody hard work, frankly. So let's have a look at the list, and I'll talk through a few. So here's my list. It's pretty comprehensive. Some more important than others, obviously. Clearly, you know, self-steering, as I've said several times, wind vane and the autopilot are key, and they're under construction as I speak to you now. Well, the autopilot has arrived, I've bought it, and the wind vane's under construction. As you may well know, I bought the plans from Alan from Wave Rover. I bought them, well, a year or so ago, and I did the base for it. That's already on the boat. I'm now building the rest of it, so that's, you'll see that in you know, the next week's video. Is it's all coming up, all that building project stuff. I thought it'd be nice to have some kind of storage in the quarter berth, and possibly a USB charging port. That's not essential by any means. Something that is essential is a swim ladder, and I've got a swim ladder that I had a Miss Molly that I'm going to try and fit on the starboard, aft starboard side. Then something in the heads area to hold the toothpaste and toothbrush. Again, a very small thing. I've never really finished the lazy jacks. They worked as it were, but it's only a single line at the moment, and I'm going to put a second sort of upside down Y-shaped thing for the lazy jacks line, just to improve that. And the way that the forward sail halyard fits onto the deck, I want to change that, because I have been using an inflatable dinghy, and it's far too big. I've stored it in the lazarette, and it just completely fills the lazarette, and I really don't like it. So I've got an Avon Red Crest I want to take, and I'm making a stainless fitting to mount that on to mount the dinghy under the stainless fitting on deck to get that out of the lazarette, and the forward sail sheet will come down onto that. A fuel gauge. I've bought a fuel gauge. I need to fit it in the tank because I ended up guessing how much fuel I'd used, and it all worked out fine. Actually, I guessed quite accurately, but a gauge would be nice. Those railings that I fitted with the sort of do-it-yourself kit, they're all right, but I'd like some proper swaged ones and a double railing line. I need to complete the mast wedges, as I haven't got all of the wedges in. It was fine, the masts are solid, it was no issue, but I want to complete that and upgrade the mast boots, which also were fine, but I want always was the intention to cover them with some canvas, some painted canvas, as is traditional for mast boots. The engine rear crankshaft seal is leaking. That's a big one. I've got the seal, I've ordered it, it's arrived. I need to pull the engine forward, get in there, put a new crankshaft seal in. Make some sail covers, obviously, to protect the sails from the weather. A spare tiller would be, well, it's essential. Just in case something went wrong there, you need some kind of backup tiller. Obviously, some webbing along the deck for clipping on. You know, in bigger seas, one needs to be harnessed, clipped on when going forwards. That's essential, absolutely. The plotter gets very hot. I want to put some vents in the back so that it gets a better flow of air, and possibly some little computer fans in there to waft air over the back of the plotter. Garmin, I've read up a bit, they seem to suffer from heat in their plotters. It's a bit of an issue, I feel. And one other big thing, my two lovely water pumps, one for salt, one for fresh water, both of them drip. I don't know why. They drip from different places as well, so it's not the same issue on either one. But I need to take them off and completely go through them, make sure they're properly sealed, sort that issue out. And that's the list. So it's not too much, and I'm looking forward to doing it. You know, there's some building projects this winter, very exciting, and something I really enjoy. And I say I'm looking forward to it. Just before we go today, Pierre, and I'm trying to find his comment on the phone, Pierre asked me some questions, and I told him I'd answer them in this week's video. So one of the things he asked is how comfortable is she to sleep in, and the answer is fine. I used some brilliant foam on the cushions in the saloon, and I wish I'd used the same foam on the V-berth. It's not bad, the foam I've used, but I wish I'd used the same quality foam all through, and maybe I'll change it. But other than that, the V-berth is plenty long enough. It's comfy. You know, the mast, obviously, he comes down in the foot area, but there's room either side of it to put your feet, so not an issue. The quarter berth, I haven't slept in it, but as I understand, is fine. It's longer than the V-berth, the quarter berth. And I anticipate using that as a C berth, so it's good. Comfy to sleep on, yes. Warm enough at night, yes. In the weather we were in, have the option to run the stove all night. I didn't at any stage. When it was getting colder, I ran it late until I went to bed and then turned it off. The stove keeps the boat warm. So that was all nice. In terms of condensation, the wood, you don't get condensation on wood at all, in my experience. The only bit you do get is the aluminium frames from the deck hatches. They get a bit of condensation. It's a bit of a nuisance, but I wipe them off in the morning with a towel. That's the only place where there's any condensation. It's very minimal, but I wish it wasn't. And he asked basically how comfortable is she? And the answer is I'm completely happy with the comfort. Hope that answers your questions, Pierre. And that's it from me for this week. End of the sea trials, and next week we'll be back to building. Thank you for watching. As ever, massive thank you to the lovely people who support us. These videos are not possible without you, so if you would like to support the channel, I'm sure you know how to do it. Link to the Patreon at the end or in the description. See you next week. Bye.